morning, everyone, and welcome to WHUC News 7 Across the Atlantic Report. I'm Devin Vardo.
And I'm Maya McFadden.
And you may notice that we're not actually coming to you from our normal spot. No anchor's desk, no green screen, and we're not even reporting from a Hinds campus this time.
We are at the Jackson Medgar Evers Airport, and we are currently on the way to Texas.
Well, right now we're getting ready to hop on our plane, and though we would love to tell you all about our trip before we go, we have a flight to catch. Students from the Hinds Honors Institute struck out to begin a college experience they'll never forget, learning all about English culture by living it. Students will be spending 10 days seeing sights and experiencing life the English way. Students began their journey in Jackson with a short flight to Houston, Texas, where they then depart for Heathrow London Airport. Lorian Harvey tells us about how she feels about taking her first flight during this trip.
I'm super excited. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I feel no fear.
Well, everyone, we have officially made it to England, and though the travel was long, students are definitely ready to hit the ground running on day one. Students began their first day of travel visiting Windsor Castle, just a short drive from London. They toured the state apartments and St. George's Cathedral before grabbing lunch in the town. Then students traveled to the town of Winchester to tour and learn all about Winchester Cathedral. Martina Balfour tells us what she found most interesting about this stop.
I think the most interesting thing about the Winchester Cathedral would have to be the page in the Bible where you could flip through it and it explained all the pictures. And there was also an exhibit where you could make your own stained glass window, which was also really cool.
Students then made their way to the town of Portsmouth, where they spent their evening in an English classic, Witherspoon's. What an exciting way to wrap up an amazing first day of this trip, and we can't wait to see what tomorrow brings.
Today is day 2 of our trip to England, and we have a long day ahead of us. Students started off by visiting the HMS Victory, learning about the history of the ship, exploring it, and seeing the reconstruction efforts done to it. After which, we went to Stonehenge and not only saw the monument, but went to an exhibit which shed some light on the history of the monument. We spoke to Andy Wellington, a visitor's assistant director at Stonehenge, and here's the history he gave us.
3000 BC, the first stones arrived from South Wales, and the site then became a burial mound where people were cremated and buried in a ditch. Then we had the idea of this was the land of the dead, and the community that was living here at the time were interested in creating a monument in memory of the ancestors.
Finally, we arrived at Bridgewater College and received our luggage going home with our host families. Well, we had a long day too, but it's time to rest. I can't wait to see what we'll do tomorrow.
Well, everyone, day 3 is definitely off to an exciting start. We can't wait to see what the rest of the day brings. Students began their morning hitting the road to the coastal town of Linton. There they explored local shops, including an arts and crafts shop and a second-hand bookshop. Students then head off to the nearby Blue Ball Inn to have a traditional pub lunch, surrounded by the beautiful Exmoor National Trust site. Then students move closer to the coast to Lynmouth, taking a water-powered rail car down the cliffs to explore the rocky coast. Hinds freshman Eva Jones tells us what she thought of the town and of the unusual coast.
Cliffs and stuff, it's very pretty. The sea is much better than our own, honestly.
Students then loaded back up and made the trip to spend the evening with their host families. Well, today was definitely one to remember with all the amazing views, but tomorrow promises something a little bit different. Can't wait to see you all then.
For more than 4 decades, you have trusted us to be the #1 college news source that cares for you from the beginning to the end. So now, we're proud to say that we've won the Mississippi Association of Broadcasters Awards. And we will continue to try to keep you knowledgeable and focused on stories that are happening around you. We are Hinds' very own WHUC News 7, named #1 by the Mississippi Association of Broadcasters.
Well, after a long 3 days of travel, we're in for a relaxed day 4 with our host families. Today, some students went shopping with their host family at Clark's Village and had a fun time. We interviewed Katie Hawkins, a host and the executive assistant to the principal and vice principal at Bridgewater Intensive College, about how she felt hosting students.
Oh, it's great. So this is the first year that I've hosted. I haven't done it before, and it's really good. You get a real more sense of getting to know the students by hosting, spending a bit of downtime. The itinerary is so busy that we don't often get a chance to really chat and get to know the students. So having them in our homes in the evenings is a really valuable experience.
Meanwhile, Connie Reeves tells us what she planned for her Sunday with WHUC's Devin Varno and what she's excited for about hosting.
Today, I thought I could take you around Pencilwood so we could see some forests. Having someone from another country in your house, it's just really amazing that I get to share this experience. And I think it's great to teach you all about Britain.
At the end, everyone sat around the table, enjoying a nice warm meal. Well, I am stuffed, tired, and ready for tomorrow.
Day 5 is off to an exciting start with students finally taking a look at Bridgewater Taunton College that has hosted us for this whole trip. Today, students returned to the town of Bridgewater to tour the campus of Bridgewater Taunton College. Students learned about the history and features of the college from Principal Andy Berry, along with the history lesson on Bridgewater's famous carnival and its connection to the gunpowder plot of 1605. Students then made their way through the town to learn about its history and connection to many critical points in English history. Roger Evans, a Bridgewater historian, tells us a few of the major stops throughout the town.
We covered what's known as the New Market. The market used to be at the top end of the town up at a place called Penlaw Loo. Then we moved on to the junction that's known as the Cannon Junction, where you've got Cross Rifles pub. And then we walked along an area called the Clink and went over a telescopic bridge. Then we went down to the docks, which is opened 1840, 1841, somewhere around there. We went up to the Cornhill. Everybody was very keen to have their photographs taken in front of the squibber. Then we went around to St Mary's Church. And then back to the college.
Students then returned to the campus to meet many of the students attending Bridgewater Taunton's College, American excursion, and get quizzed on American and British culture. What an amazing day learning all about our host city. We can't wait to learn more tomorrow.
It's day 6 and we're in the city of Bath. Students toured the Roman baths, an ancient structure, and learned about its history. Mr. Eric Bobo, the chair of the Department of Social and Behavioral Sciences at Hinds, gave us a small history about the Roman baths.
Today we are touring the Roman baths, which were established during the Roman occupation of Great Britain. So we'll be going through the bath. Then I think we can go and tour the Abbey and do a little sightseeing and shopping.
After that, students were free to explore the town until it was time to go to Taunton later in the day, and they visited the Museum of Somerset. Joshua Vasquez, a student at Hinds, spoke on his experience at the museum.
The place was really cool. Shopping was really cool. Cool town too. They had a big dragon that was made out of wood. That was pretty cool.
After everything was said and done, everyone packed into a hub for a bite to eat and to play some games. It's been a lovely day 6, full of adventuring, exploring, and shopping. And at the end of the day, we all come together to have fun.
It's a cold and windy start to day 7 as students prepare to head out to the town of Wells this morning. Today, students began their morning headed to the city of Wells to explore the beautiful Wells Cathedral and the town surrounding. Hinds student Brenna Genty tells us how she felt about the historic cathedral.
Wells Cathedral was so beautiful. Honestly, like one of the most beautiful places in the world. Old churches, nothing better than an old church.
Students then traveled to the town of Glastonbury to explore the Glastonbury Tor and the ruins of Glastonbury Abbey, and learn about its connection to the legend of King Arthur. It's been a wet but great day seeing all these amazing places across the country, but tonight is actually our last night with our host family, so we're going to spend a little bit more time with them while we still can.
If you can't trust any other college news source, trust WHUC. They are the team you can trust with the latest Hinds news. From the State Fair,
numerous antique vehicles,
the annual homecoming specials,
Very interesting and refreshing.
and more. While others chit-chat, we bring you the latest to what's happening across and around the Hinds County area.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for joining us on WHUC
Trust Hinds' very
News
own
7 News.
WHUC News 7.
It's an early start to day 8 as everyone leaves their host families and prepare to travel to London. Students began the early morning saying goodbye to their host families, packed up and ready for the last stop of the trip, London. We toured London and visited the British Museum, spending the rest of the day relaxing, touring, and having fun. Later in the evening, we went to see the Back to the Future musical, though for us it was more like a blast to the past. Hinds student Hazel Mejia tells us what she thought about the Back to the Future musical.
Really enjoyed seeing that musical. Last year when I came, we got to see The Lion King, so it was great being able to see a new one. It was really fun to see the characters, and my favorite character was the dog.
Well, it's been a long day 8, and London sure is loud and different, but I enjoyed myself.
Day 9 of our trip, and it is our first full day in London. However, it is the last full day of our trip, but we have a lot of exploring crammed into the next few hours. Students began their final day in London, touring and exploring one of the most famous landmarks in the country, Westminster Abbey. Led by tour guide Tony McDonald. In the country's early days, and about many of the famous people who were either buried there or memorialized. Tony McDonald tells us a little bit about what type of people are buried in the Abbey.
Who was buried here? Were you great? Were you good? Were you heroic? No, but you were wealthy enough to pay for people to be buried here.
Students then set out to explore more of the city's culture, exploring such areas as Camden Market and the Chinatown district. Hinds freshman Emma Harper tells us what she thought of the city, as well as her experience with the London Underground.
I had really fun in the city, walking around, seeing all the shops. The food was really good, and the tube rides today were good, but tonight something happened, and we had to get on 500 different kind of tubes to get around.
Well, everyone, it was an exciting last day in London and students were able to explore the city. However, this does mean that our trip is wrapping up. We got a late night tonight, and tomorrow we'll be on a lot of planes, so we'll see you then.
Students packed their bags and rose early in the morning to ride the tube to the airport. And after 3 plane rides and a lot of walking, they finally arrived back home in Mississippi after a long 10 days.
Well, everyone, we have officially made it back to Jackson, and that means that our trip is over.
And we had a lot of fun in England.
And, well, everyone, thank you for joining us on WHUC News 7's Across the Atlantic show. Be sure to keep an eye on our YouTube channel for more. And until next time, thank you for joining us.